All right. Well, hello and welcome everyone. Welcome back to Birmingham Bible Church's Winning Wednesday. We are so glad that you have decided to log on here today. So hello to all of our Facebook users. If you're watching us on YouTube, on Twitter, thank you for watching. And we'd like to thank everyone for their support. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking it. Just thank you for everything that you do to support what we do here every Wednesday at 12 noon. So it is September already, y'all. I saw a post the other day that said tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Next week will be Christmas and Happy New Year, by the way. I mean, that's just kind of how fast things are going. We look up and it's going to be Christmas. And so, of course, this is just another wonderful time of the year. It's getting a little cooler here in Birmingham. So we experiencing cool fronts of 80-some degrees. So praise God for that. You're starting to see pumpkin things in the supermarkets and the grocery stores. So that's awesome. But September for us is just awesome. Guys, we have a great lineup. The entire month is talking about being nationally prepared. And even just what we're having next week, the week after that, is just really helping us to be prepared. Today, we're going to talk about why we need to be prepared for natural disasters and how we can be prepared. Next week, we're going to talk about how we can store our important documents digitally. I'm excited about next week as well. The week after that is life insurance. Can't say it enough. You need life insurance. Don't leave your loved ones stranded, figuring out how they're going to make ends meet off of one paycheck when they're used to two. So we're going to talk about that. And then the very end of the month, we'll talk about Medicare being insured medically. So we got some good stuff this month, y'all. But for today, why is it important? Why is it important for us to prepare ourselves for natural disasters and emergency? I got a couple of reasons. All you have to do is turn on the news. Maui, I mean, just imagine in the middle of the night, you're having to leave your home because a fire has spread. The hurricane that just left, and there's another one that's coming. And then just tornadoes. It's just stuff that happens here in the climate. And so we have to be prepared. We have to make sure that we are doing our due diligence and being prepared. And Nikki Ivory, from AI Mutual, she does such a phenomenal job at whatever I ask her to do. She's just a jack of all trades, y'all. I don't know how she does it all. She has a daughter, she homeschools. I mean, it's just amazing. But she is just always giving us great information. So I'm going to give way to her and let her bless us with all this good information so that we can be prepared nation. So, hey, Nikki, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? And actually, she starts homeschool next Monday. So the people that we go through, it was supposed to be this Monday, but it starts next Monday. So we're excited. So still getting a lot to prepare for
Hey,
next week,
I know
but very
you.
excited. Let me
Good,
go ahead and
good.
share my screen, but very
Okay.
happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for this. I remember last year, I was like, oh, this is so great. We got to have you on the because, sometimes we forget, we have some good things here on Winter Wednesday, but, sometimes we need a reminder. Oh, I forgot. I need to make sure I do that. And so
Exactly.
this is awesome. Your mom last year, she was so funny. She's supposed to be talking about Medicare. She was talking about saving up your rice and beans. I said, she right about that. I need to be saving my rice and beans. Uh-oh, can't hear you, Nikki. Sorry. Try it again. Uh-oh. Hold on. Let me see. Let's try that. There
There
we
you
go.
go.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Let me try it again. I was just trying to share my screen. Can you still see my screen?
You can see your screen perfect. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay, just want to make sure. No, I was just joking. I said she's probably going to still talk about that this year
Yeah.
because, as you've seen, since the last time she spoke, prices have increased. And
Yeah.
so And I actually just heard too that some of the shipments are starting to be slowed from China. So I think, we are going to see more expensive products out there and possibly even hyperinflation.
Um,
but let me not go down that road. So
I know,
let me
I
stay on the natural disaster
know. Yeah.
road. But I just want to thank you today for allowing me to speak to your audience again. It's always a pleasure being here on Winning Wednesday. I just love that Winning Wednesday. And this is about, empowerment, and this information that people are getting is going to empower them and their families to be very successful. So, just a little bit about myself. I am everything insurance. I love insurance. I love this industry. I'm the CEO of AI Mutual, an insurance brokerage firm that specializes in business and personal insurance products. I'm also a licensed adjuster, having worked as a catastrophic adjuster for major hurricanes and hailstorms, have provided me with insight on how best to protect your family and assets during a storm. So as you can see here, I've been a property adjuster, auto adjuster, catastrophic adjuster, property and casualty. Okay, so we're going to give you the information you need today to be successful. So let's just talk a little bit about what is a natural disaster. Okay. So a natural disaster is a natural event such as a flood, earthquake, or a hurricane that causes great damage or loss of life. And as Lady Pam just said, we have seen that already in 2023 alone. Let's talk about some of these record breaking weather events. And yes, 2023 is making history. I say in a sad way, but we are making record history and we're only in September. So let's start off with January. So the year began with the sixth warmest January on record, averaging a temperature of 35.2 degrees Fahrenheit in the USA. There also were high levels of rainfall, making 2023 the third wettest January on record. That's a lot. I mean, think of how long we've been in existence, as a nation, right, as a country. And this is the third wettest January record. We've also experienced a lot of storms, which resulted in floods and landslides, as well as snowfall in the mountainous regions. In February, ice storms across Texas and the Midwest, as well as freezing temperatures across the Northwest. And then I like Lady Pam started mentioned about the tornadoes. So many tornadoes happen throughout the Midwest in the month of February, okay, which is very unusual for February. Normally we think about that in spring, right? And then in March, California's bomb cyclone. How many people remember that? Well, sadly, it did leave 2 people dead and more than 100,000 people without power. Winds reached hurricane level. This is in March, you guys, which reached hurricane level speed and affected 35 million people. Just very unheard of for California residents. The storm was considered to be the strongest March storm ever recorded in the Bay Area. And then tornadoes also tore that same time in the month of March in the South, killing at least 25 people one person. And then, I mean, check out these wind speeds. The National Weather Service reported winds between 166 and 200 miles per hour and gave these storms an EF4 tornado rating. The highest is the EF5. So we're seeing EF4 storms, tornadoes in the month of March. And then April 7th, was a very sad day. We had so many tornadoes, okay? And it kills a lot of people, sadly. And by that time, the number of people that died in tornadoes already for the month of April basically reached the records that they've ever seen in an entire year. So, the month of May, wildfires began to rage in Canada and several states in America. June, now we're coming up into the summertime. More recent, June 7th, the sky turned orange. How many people remember, New York City? Everybody showing their photos on social media about the sky being orange. This is from the wildfire, from the smoke in Canada. A day that all New Yorkers will never forget. And then on August 8th, another sad, tragic day that our Hawaiians, our Maui citizens will never forget. And of course, we heard about the hurricanes and everything happening in Atlantic and Pacific. And right now, you guys, in case you didn't know, yes, hurricane season starts in June, but we're in the heart of the hurricane season right now. Usually that's like towards the end of August and it goes until like maybe I would say the first or middle of October where it's really, really intense. So we want everyone to be prepared. So one thing for sure, it's not a question on if a natural disaster will happen, but a matter of when. And you want to make sure that you're prepared. So these catastrophes are not only deadly, but they're costly. In the first half of 2023, natural disasters around the world caused an overall loss of 194 billion with a B dollars. Maui, Hawaii alone is estimated to be close to $6 billion in damages. A hurricane, and I want to say, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right, Idalia or Idalia, I believe it's Idalia, has brought in over $100 billion in damages. So these are not inexpensive catastrophes. These are very expensive. And of course, these prices get passed on to all insurance. Homeowners. It doesn't matter if you were in these affected areas or not. If you're in the state, you're going to experience increase in your premiums because these insurance companies have to pay these claims. So let's talk about the winter predictions. We want to see what's coming ahead. We're in the month of September now, and just like Lady Pam said, it's going to be the end of the year before we know it. So let's look at the almanac winter predictions. I always like looking at these predictions because they're always on point. Okay, so if you want to know about the weather, they have been doing this for years. It's amazing how accurate they are. So the Farmer's Almanac, which has been going strong for 200 years, releases extended weather forecasts for people to plan ahead. So definitely plan ahead, people. Let's be proactive, not reactive. They have lots of great tools on their site, including weather updates, gardening tips, moon cycles, healthy food recipes, and activities for the kids. But look at this. As you can see, it's all white at the top. So what does that mean, Nicole? Snowfall will be above normal across most snow-prone areas, except for the Pacific Northwest. The same areas will also see normal to colder than normal temperatures. So right now, while the prices, like we talked about, are, I would say, pretty level because we're going to start to see more higher prices when it comes to consumer products. I would just recommend this time, since we're out of season, to purchase those winter items. Stock up on those coats, maybe even another size higher if you have little kids. Get those blankets. Start to get the purchase the candles. Whatever you need to make sure that you're going to be able to withstand the storms. And then if you look at below the map, wetter than usual weather is coming to the southern portions of the deep south, Texas, California, which potentially drought quenching rain. Okay, so we've talked about how, especially last year, I know on our presentation last year, we saw all this drought happening, and it's still happening. Don't think it's not just because they're not talking about it. We're still not out of the woods yet, but we are going to get some relief this winter. Okay, and then as you can see, everything, the winter map shows much of the US coastline from North England down to Florida, across the Gulf Coast to the Pacific Southwest will experience mild to cool temperatures. So we're not going to really have snow, this year. So sorry for all the little kids, who want to play in the snow. If you're down south, you're not going to get it. So definitely go visit some relatives up north. Okay. Let's talk about how to prepare for a disaster. So the first thing I always say, it starts with your mindset. You have to have the will to survive. If not, you're doomed. It doesn't matter how prepared you are. If you don't have the will to survive, it's not going to help you. Okay? Prepare yourself mentally to know that you can be in a disaster situation, just like you saw on TV, just like she mentioned in Maui. Okay? We're all seeing this on TV, all right, on social media. This could be you. Put yourself in these individual situations. Of course, we never want to be in a situation, but we have to know that we could be. Sometimes we think things are so far away from us when really that could possibly be our reality. All right. So realizing that tragedy can strike at any given time puts you in a survival mindset and helps you to prepare. So now, while you can prepare, okay, that's wisdom that you're exercising. So this is something new that I really want to share with you guys. This is something I just learned this year, and this is called the Gleisberg cycle. Have you heard of the Gleisberg cycle? I know until this year I didn't hear about this cycle, but scientist Wolfgang Gleisberg discovered that solar activity changes every 89 years. Isn't that an interesting number? Every 89 years, and corresponds with major droughts in the Midwest. So we just talked about the droughts that we're having. And then if you are keeping up with the weather, they're talking about all these solar flares, right? We have a high solar flare activity that's been happening off the sun this entire year. So with that being said, again, this happens every 89 years is when we're going to experience this major drought. This happened before in 1847, again in 1936, and will likely happen again around 2025. Now, some scientists and economists that I have been hearing are saying that we're already in it. So, what you want to do is make sure that you prepare your family with water. You want to make sure you're stocking up on water. You want to make sure that you're purchasing filters. You want to make sure you're purchasing life straws. If you have a well on property, make sure that's working. Make sure it's updated. If you don't have a well, you may possibly want to get one. Okay. So you need to figure out how you're going to survive this next upcoming drought. All right, famine. So let's start with preparing your family with the upcoming famine. Okay, take charge of your food supply is a must. This was done in Genesis 41:54. And the 7 years of famine began just as Joseph has said. There was famine in all the other lands, but the whole land of Egypt, there was food. Why was there food? Because he prepared. Not only did he receive that vision, right, but he acted upon it. He could have gotten it and just did nothing with it, but you see all the signs around us. You see some of these crops looking like this. I don't know about you guys, but my grass is not green. Okay. And I love green weather. I mean, I love green environments, from the trees to the grass. I just love green leaves. I just love green. But everything for me is like brown or kind of light, like beige. Everything is just dead, right now because we really haven't received the water relief that we need. So you see all the signs around you, and God is giving all of these signs to let us know about a potential upcoming famine. Even the economists are telling us that we need to prepare in the event the food supply gets stopped. Like I just said, the shipments from China, where we get a lot of our supplies, a lot of our products, just turn over any product that you have in your house is made in China. Okay. A lot of our food that comes from maybe South America or Central America, that requires shipment. If shipments get stopped and they're talking about us possibly going on another lockdown, you need to make sure you and your family can survive without having to go to the grocery stores. Because what if there's no food in the grocery stores? Or if hyperinflation happens, instead of paying, $2 for a loaf of bread, what if it's 10? Okay. So you want to make sure that doesn't affect you. Even if that is what's happening in the world, you want to make sure that you and your family are not personally affected by that. Okay. So let's continue. So starting a garden is another way that can help your family with just not only having food, but fresh food. Have you guys been seeing all of these TikTok videos going around about all this fake food now that is in our grocery stores? So you really can't trust the products that are in our grocery stores anymore. A lot of it is GMO, which means genetically modified organisms, okay, which is not healthy for us. A lot of especially even fruit, people say, oh, I'm just going to eat fruit, I'm not going to eat meat, that's fake meat, I'm not going to eat it, I'm going to eat fruit. You have to be careful about your fruit as well, because a lot of these fruits now are seedless. Okay, I'm sorry, but God created our fruits to have seeds so that way it can reproduce other fruit. So how can fruits reproduce if they're seedless? And what is that doing to you, your body, your molecular structure, if you're putting that type of product into your system? It just can't be positive. So you want to make sure that whatever you eat has seeds. And how do you guarantee this? Well, start growing your own garden. Now you know the chain, okay? Because we don't know where our food is coming from. We don't know what it went through, what it's been sprayed with. We just don't know. But when you have full control of the cycle of the whole system, that you know what you're putting in your body is good, okay? Another thing I wanted to say is that you can actually start planting a garden, even if you're in a city. Sometimes people feel you have to be in the suburbs or in the country. No, I have plenty of friends who live in a city, like this gentleman here is doing, that are starting gardens, okay, either on their roof or on their balconies or patios, okay? Another thing is start prepping. Like we said, hey, while everything, I don't want to say cheap because things are not cheap. From us who've been here before, we remember prices being a lot less expensive. But at this time, while they're moderate, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, because we know they're going to be much more expensive, this is the time to stock while the product is available, while the prices are where they are. Like we mentioned earlier, purchase those beans and rice at the grocery store. Start getting those staple food. I remember when I was in Costa Rica, that is their staple food. And when I tell you, I learned how to cook beans and rice like 50 million different ways. It was delicious too. And it was very filling. And you can really feed your family on this. I remember one time my mom, this lady came up to my mother asking her for money for food for her and her kids. And my mom was like, she was at the grocery store at HEB here. My mom started to grab some beans and rice. And the lady was like, oh no, I was really asking just for money so I can go purchase us, a little Caesar's pizza. And my mom was like, that little Caesar's pizza is just going to last you like 1 hour. I'm giving you product that you can make to last you for weeks. And so I think a lot of us, especially younger people, are just disconnected from really how to survive. And I'm telling you, I've already told my daughter, in case we have to eat rice and beans every day, I don't want you sticking your nose up at it. Okay. This is what's going to help us survive and keep you healthy. Okay. So teach your kids to do the same and start canning. Canning is a simple way to preserve food, okay? So, canning is simply a matter of immersing hot jars into boiling water long enough to suck out all the air and then keeping it sealed. That way, you can keep this for a long time. Unopened home canned foods have a life shelf of just 1 year and can be used for up to 2 years. Okay. Commercially canned foods should retain their best quality until the expiration code or date on the back of the can, and that date is usually for 2 to 5 years. So we just talked about Joseph with the 7 years. And so when people sometimes ask me, Nicole, like how much food should I get? They're like 2 weeks, a couple of months. I'm like 7 years. We don't know what's going to happen between now and 2030. Literally, that's putting us right at the 2030 mark. So, wouldn't it be wise to have 7 years of food for your family? All right. Next, community garden. This is amazing here because this is a collaborative effort between you, your neighbors, or those you want to, connect with. Start a community garden. All right. Work as a team to ensure your community has the food it needs during the famine. A great way to bond with others and grow food. Check with your city. Sometimes you can purchase lots that are zoned for residential homes and you can use those for community gardens. I did check that here. And McLennan County. And it is true, you can do that. Of course, you have to get the permission. So you have to fill out the paperwork and have them sign off on it. But how amazing is that to use vacant lots for community gardens? Flooding. So this is starting to happen more and more. All right. And as you know, for those who are homeowners, your homeowner's policy does not cover flooding. So this can be disastrous. It was very disastrous when I worked the Hurricane Harvey claims back in 2017, especially for those who are in Harris County, which is basically those who live in Houston and surrounding areas. Today, literally, you will see so many vacant homes. They're trying to lease those out to people like rent to own, but they didn't even fix them up. I mean, it's really sad when you go to these websites because flooding was just not covered. When people, we had to decline them because the policy does not cover floods. So we gave them the declination letter, which they would take to FEMA to try to get support. But then when I was doing that, I was like, oh, great, these people are going to get, money to restore their homes. And then a few years later, I was listening to NPR and they were talking about Hurricane Harvey. And they stated that the average check received from FEMA was only $7,000. Now it makes sense to me while there's so many homes available that were never restored in Houston. It was just more beneficial for people to walk away from it than to try to restore those homes. Okay. So one thing that I would say to people who can afford to get flood insurance, do it. Please do it. If you're in a flood zone, definitely do it. You can actually go to msc.fema.gov/portal/home to check your address. Okay. And if you're in that zone, you can purchase private flood insurance. from NFIP, which is National Flood Insurance Program, to be able to take care of your house. Okay. But you're going to want to do that because when I tell you that insurance carriers are very strapped now for cash, it's really sad to say that because you're paying these exorbitant, premiums every month. But I've seen it. I'm working these catastrophes. I've worked Hurricane Ida, Hurricane N. When I tell you that these insurance carriers are just not able to pay, all these claims, they're just not. So anything that they can do to say, well, you didn't do your part, to mitigate, or you didn't do this, or you didn't do that, right? They're having to do that. And so if you can take care of your home with any flooding issues, that would be phenomenal.
Hey, Nikki,
So, yep, go right ahead.
what was that website to know if your home is located in a flood zone? You said MSC something?
Oh, yes. So it's going to be M as in Mary, S as in Sam, C as in Charles, FEMA.gov /portal/home.
Okay, because that was one question I actually had for you, is should we get flood insurance, but I guess the thing is to see if you live in a flood zone area, and,
Exactly.
and we can contact the flood program, the NFIP, or let me ask you, if you already have insurance, should we contact our person, our rep, and see if, hey, do y'all offer flood insurance, or would it be
You can
more?
always see if they offer it. Sometimes most insurance carriers don't, but you can see if they offer it. And then if not, NFIP is going to be your best source.
I gotcha. Okay, thank you.
People know when it
Say that again, Nikki. You
storms,
can.
there may be puddles of water, right? Your system here, go to this website. If you're in a area that's prone to floods, if there's a heavy storm that comes through and there's just water that sits, or if you've seen water that has raised, if maybe you don't have a good drainage system on your street, right? Because sometimes even with flooding, you could be located in an area that may be when you go to FEMA, they'll tell you if you have a 1% chance or up to a 100% chance, right? Of flooding in the next 100 years, right? But sometimes your home can still flood if you don't have a good drainage system on your street. That happens a lot in Houston. And so you want to make sure that you are good because they consider flood anything that's where it's rising water, anything that's coming up is going to be declined by your insurance policy. So you want to make sure that if you're in a low-lying area where water could rise up, or if you've known that that area has had floods, or if FEMA says you're in a flood prone area, then I highly recommend that you pay for that insurance. Now, I do know it is expensive. I mean, literally, but if you do, greatest asset, which is your home. Things happening, keep it intact because trying to get another home in 2024 is coming. Okay. All these environmental laws, you just want to make sure you are able to stay put where you are. Okay. It's going to put you in a better situation. And then look at this right here. This went viral. I want to say this was in 2012, where this Asian lady actually broke the glass. She was in a flood, right? And she was able to break the glass with her headrest. That is awesome. Most people do not read their vehicle manuals. I mean, we don't have time. I know you purchase new cars, they always have that in your glove compartment. Definitely, my thing to you is read all of it for front to back because you'll be surprised what type of gadgets you have or some things that you can use. And this is one of them that they talk about. The headrest of your car is deliberately kept detachable and sharp so that it can be used to break the glass of a car in a case of an emergency. This is information that you need to know because what if you're in a situation like this? What if you're traveling? You need to be like this lady to be able to break that glass to safely get you and your family out. So that's awesome. And let's talk about energy. This is huge. So Texans learned the hard way in winter of 2021. We still talk about that. We didn't have access to electricity for several days. It was terrible. Some residents even died. Everyone needs to be prepared in the event this happens again, okay? So, winter tips: purchase a generator, ensure you have batteries, portable chargers, flashlights for every member in the home, heavy blankets, a tent. Okay, get a tent, you guys, because you never know if you're going to need this tent indoors or outdoors. It's just best to have one. And like I said, purchase these items now. Start to create a budget. I know people just probably already paid a lot of money for school, getting their kids ready for school. And maybe the next thing is going to be Thanksgiving or Christmas, or if you have birthdays in between. But what I am saying, this is going to make a difference for from everything in the world. Create an emergency budget. Make sure that your family is good in the summertime. So those are going to be those extra fans, anything that can keep you cool, water, because you want to make sure that you can survive, okay? Next thing here, let's talk about EV cars. This is something that's becoming more and more and more. In September of 2022, the California EV owners, and EV stands for electric vehicle owners, were asked by their officials to not charge their EVs to conserve electricity. That's kind of crazy because they want us all to get on this grid. They want us all to stop, using gasoline. They want us all to purchase EV cars. They want us up and running. I'm talking about 2035, worldwide if they can. I know in the state of California, they're banning gasoline vehicles by 2035. Okay. Well, let's just talk about it. If that's where we're headed to, just kind of think about that too in the back of your mind. If you already own gasoline vehicles, and if you have a car, you want to trade it in. Some people like to me. I was thinking about getting an EV this last time, but I just kept hearing too many issues. So hopefully by 2030 they can work out those kinks, right? Because it's just so much going on in the EV space. But let's talk about it since more and more people are getting electrical vehicles. So tips for traveling in electric vehicles around activities or meal breaks. Use available apps and be flexible and have a backup plan. I keep hearing these stories. I call them horror stories where people are traveling and they have to, like this lady's doing here, charge up their vehicle, and there's like, I mean, a long wait time. People are there for like 8 hours because everyone's having to charge up their car, or you're having to wait for the person ahead of you to charge up the car and their space to become available. So you're 8 hours. I mean, I could literally drive from Texas, to from Dallas to New Orleans in 8 hours. Okay, so that's why we're saying you have to be flexible with your plans. And then EVs are, and this is interesting too. When I was researching this, I said electric vehicles are better for urban adventures, which means city adventures, than going off the grid. I was like, isn't that the whole point of having an electric vehicle? So you can kind of go off the grid, right? But anyway, so but just kind of letting you know that. So more to me, it really sounds to me it's not more for long distance, it's more for short distance. So this would be interesting for people like myself, y'all, who like to travel. But just keep those tips in mind when you're traveling. So reporting property and auto claims. So there's a lot of things that you want to do as a homeowner after a catastrophe happens. Okay, and we're going to talk about that today. So, what to do when filing a property or auto claim? You want to take photos of the property and auto inside and out. And before I even get started on that, you always want to make sure that you mitigate in advance. So, if you know a hurricane is coming, you always see everyone on TV, boarding up their windows, their doors, maybe using sandbags. And then if I were them, I would take pictures of that. Okay. Email myself those pictures. All right. Why am I saying email myself? Because if you print those out, or if you have a camera, a physical camera, or even your phone, in a state of emergency, you can lose your phone, it could break, or whatever. And now you don't have that evidence, or it may be harder for you to get that evidence off if you have to take it to, one of your um, phone carriers. So if you email it to yourself, you can pull that up anywhere, at a library, at your friend's house, doesn't matter. Okay, you can get that off to your adjuster. But I want to tell you, stress the importance of mitigation. Okay, because now all these insurance and carriers are looking for that. So if you have water coming into your house and you didn't even attempt to stop it, then they're going to have questions with you. All right, and they may only pay for so much of that estimate. All right, so what to do when filing a claim? Take photos of the property in your auto, inside and out. Keep physical and digital records of purchases, receipts, photos, contractor invoices, and more. Document, document, document. Okay, have everything in writing. Create lists of trustworthy and recommended contractors. I keep telling people this year after year after year. It requires work on your part. Okay, the insurance company cannot refer you to contractors. Now, sometimes if they're using companies like their business partners like Alacrity, well, then Alacrity actually has a system where they, have a portal where if I had my own plumbing company, I could, connect with Alacrity, be a contractor for Alacrity. And then when a catastrophe happens in that area, that company would use Alacrity, but Alacrity would use me to take care of your plumbing issues. Okay, well, yeah, that's fine. But far as the insurance carrier, they're not going to refer you to any vendors. All right. So that means you're on your own. And time after time, I have people ask me as an adjuster, can you refer people to me? I can't do it. Now, I can always give them suggestions. I say, well, maybe you want to check with members from your church who are experiencing that, or your neighbor if they just had their roof done, because you want to get someone who's reputable. You don't want people, fly by night people who are coming in, do none of the work or do half the work and then are out of here to leave for a bigger job. And you guys, that happens time and time again. So right now, it's very slow up north. The work right now is very slow up north. So during this time is hurricane season. So sometimes contractors from up north will travel down south for catastrophic work. Okay, I have no problems with that. Business is business. But one thing I do recommend people is if they can get someone that they know who's local to the area, because people who are local to the area, they're vested in that area. If they live in your city, they want that city, to look great. Because they want their property values to still remain. Their reputation is on the line. Okay, so they want to come through for you. If you connect with some out of towner, they don't know you. And sometimes they come in asking for deposits. Please don't give people deposit. Don't do that, because time and time again, people do that. They'll get their check maybe from the insurance carrier, 15,000, give this person $5,000, never hear from them again. Then they call the insurance carrier asking for another $5,000. It doesn't work like that. You're not going to get the $5,000. You're out now. So, you want to make sure that you get people who are here to stay. I've also seen where out of towners from up north will come, and I'm speaking for Texas. I've seen this personally where they would come, start start the jobs, is what they call them, jobs, for insureds, and then a hurricane will come to Florida, and then they will leave all of their jobs in Texas and go to Florida because the rates are higher. They get paid more in Florida. So now all these people who started to get their work done on our homes now are either halfway complete or maybe never started. Okay, so that's why I say if you can get someone local, start to get those lists now, because you will exhaust those lists just like this in the event of a hurricane. Okay, those same numbers, names you have, other people are going to call them too. So you want to establish relationships with these people. When it's out of season, call these people. Okay, tell them to put them on it, put you on their list. You want to create a relationship with them. So if they only have work, for 20 this month in your area, they have a relationship with you. Maybe you brought them other business when you didn't even need their business, but now they're going to do something for you because they're like, oh, sister so and so, she's really nice. She's really nice. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay. It makes a difference. Always get 3 repair estimates from contractors. I know this is very hard to do, in a catastrophic event, because again, when it's a catastrophic event, these roofing companies know they don't have to come to your home, give you an estimate, and hope that you call them, to do the roof. They don't have to do that. Now, if it's off season, they're happy to come to your house. They know that this is a part of what they have to do. It's kind of like giving people a quote, right? They know that's a part of the nature of the business. But during a catastrophic time, if they're coming to your house, it is to do the work. Okay. So you want to make sure, if you can, again, to have those trusted contractors you already know, and then when they come, they can just do the work, because I think it's going to be very hard for you to get people just to come to give you quotes. They don't have time during that season. Okay. All right. So now, before I go there, let me just give one moment. I just want to make sure I covered everything there. Okay, perfect. So now we're going to go to some recommended sites and some apps. So this is my page here, and I am located on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. You can find me online on different social medias. Okay. But yes, this is a great way to listen to some of the recorded Coverage Over Coffee podcasts, because we talk a lot about natural disasters. I take deep dives into you understanding your property and auto insurance policies. Okay. How to work with your adjuster to receive best results, and how to get life insurance coverage and more. So definitely check it out here. You'll see some of the handles. The social media handle is just AI Mutual. That's how you can find me on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. But this is really great information here. Also, and I'll send this list to Lady Pam. But Led Farmer, my mom loves him. If you talk to her, she's a part of his, I don't know if he calls it Farmer Nation or what he calls them, right? But every time he goes live, she's live on there, okay? But he gives really great information, like we spoke about earlier, about gardening, creating your own food supply. You definitely want to listen to him on that. A podcast. If you go to survivalfist.com, okay, they have a lot of prepper podcasts on there. Another one is a DIY prepper TV. Okay, more and more people, you have to start getting into prepping. I know that we are a nation of having things instantaneously. If I feel like having Italian for lunch, and then maybe a steak at nighttime, I could literally just go on an app, have that delivered to me within 30, 45 minutes, right? So I know we're a people of convenience, but you have to start thinking about the what ifs. What if, the grid goes down and I don't have access to tap an app to get that? Okay. What if, they're not able to, they don't have food anymore and I can't get this food? How am I going to survive? We have to start thinking about those things, because, our ancestors didn't have all these conveniences. So they had those land, they had those gardens, they were farming, right? Because they didn't have all the stuff we had today. And their stuff was natural. They didn't even have as many diseases as we have today, because they didn't have pesticides and GMO and all this other stuff. It was just natural. So I really feel we have to get back to the land. We have to reconnect, and we all have to start, because we don't know this. It's kind of a strange or foreign process for us. But once you get started, I promise you it's going to be an easier experience for you. You're going to learn from all your mistakes, and it can only get better. And then also the Urban Prepper is another great website for you as well. And then here we were talking about FEMA. Please go to www.ready.gov. I love this website, you guys. They have everything for you. I know I just kind of gave you a few things that you should have on your list, on your emergency list. But look at this. They have everything that you need. One thing also, too, again, that requires work, but I pray everybody does the work. And that's my motto for my company, is just do the work. This year in 2023, it's not enough to talk about it. We have to be about it. You have to do the work. All right. And once you do the work, by actually getting all these emergency, first of all, just not saying I need to get the emergency supplies, but actually look at the list and purchasing it. Okay, sometimes it may require research. Who has the better products? Who has the better reviews? Where is it in stock? Can I get this delivered on time? Because now is the time to do it. All right. And then another thing too, that I wanted to say about that, about doing the work, You have to do the work now because, again, while the prices are the way they are, let's get it done. Okay, this is a season. Another thing too, disaster and assistance, flood maps, like I stated earlier, is here. If you need assistance in your area, that's here. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So going back to Maui, what I was going to say is every time something happens, we need to look at that as a case study. And so we remember from schools they would have case studies and how did what happened, how did the people respond, what could have been done better. Okay? You need to put yourself in that situation. So for instance, just really quickly with Maui, that was something that happened just like that, right? So people sometimes literally when you hear their accounts, they had minutes, to prepare to get out of there. Some people saw it brewing for 3 hours because one fire popped up, died down, and then that second fire was what it was. What got everybody like, oh my gosh, this is something huge. So maybe what could we have done on the first fire? What about the second fire? Do you have everything together where you could just pick up a backpack and go, or a luggage case and go? Do you have a gas tank that's full? Okay, do you know all the emergency routes? Okay. Do you have water? Like do you have your emergency kit in your car? In the event you are stuck in your car, do you have the food? Do you have the water? Do you have the blankets? Especially depending on the type of year it is. If it's cold, do you have those blankets? Can you stay warm if you get stuck somewhere? If you get stuck on a highway and they don't have any crews to come help you. I remember years ago and I was saying I was being I was like, okay, God, this is probably why you blessed me because it was one of the New Year's nights, what they call it, what do we call this thing? New Year watch parties, and it
Yeah.
was at a church, and it literally it was so bad in Arlington and DFW. It was just snow, ice everywhere. But I was so determined to go to church, right? I should have stayed home, okay? And I remember doing 360s, right, on I-20. I literally, my car was turning around, spinning around, and then I started sliding into the traffic. And then God bless me, He just placed my car, on a side in a ditch, and it got stuck. But here I am now, stuck at night, okay? Dressed up, ready to go somewhere, some hills, ready to go somewhere, and ice and snow. And then AAA cannot get to me until the next day because it was so bad. Okay. So what are you going to do in that situation? God sent, an angel my way because he sure didn't look like no angel. It was a gentleman who came through with a truck and his truck smelled like weed. And I was like, oh my gosh, I pray everything works out. But I really didn't have any other options because my phone wasn't working. Like I literally was stuck. And everything worked out. Literally, he took me home. Everything was phenomenal. The next day, he picked me up, brought me back to my car while I waited for AAA. Okay, that worked out that time, but that possibly could not have worked out. So what are your options? I thought about that day, like what other things could I have done? Okay. So sometimes when there are situations like this or any situations, maybe you don't want to put yourself in that situation. Okay. Maybe you just say, hey, this time, this event, I'm just not gonna go. And sometimes that's kind of hard to do because we are very sociable people, we want to be everywhere. But sometimes with things, you may have to just skip it because you're thinking about the what ifs and you're not prepared for that. Okay. Another thing, Ready Kit Gov, create an emergency kit, bug out bag information. This is really good. It's good to have a bug out bag. Sometimes you can even just purchase a bug out bag online that's already taken care of for you. But just don't stop there. Once you get that bug out bag, take out every single item and know how to use it. Okay. And some things you want to do now is test things out before that time comes. So if you have to test cooking outside or starting a fire so that way you can cook, practice that stuff now. Okay. So when the emergency happens, you're not trying to figure things out because not everything goes right. So you want, things can happen. So you want to start testing that out now and say, oh, I learned from my mistake. You know what? Actually, I need to purchase this so that way it can be better. Okay. So when that emergency happens, man, you're ready to rock. And then also to go to noaa.gov/weather. Get real time information on weather happening in your area. Just like Lady Pam says, you can go there right now and see what's happening in the Atlantic, in the Eastern, and the Pacific Oceans. At this time, not only can you see what's happening if you click on, the red dot or sometimes it's yellow, the storm, it'll show you its projected tracker. Okay, where it's supposed to be. Today's what, Wednesday. We're supposed to be on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Also, it's projected strength. It's projected storm strength, right? So by the time on Tuesday when it hits Florida, is that supposed to be a Cat 3 or Cat 4? Okay, so if you're trying to evacuate Florida, this is sound information because now you know, look, oh my gosh, I better start leaving sooner than what I was thinking about because even on my way out, that storm is coming in. So we have to look at these things. You can't just put your head in the sand and just hope everything's going to be all right. Especially not when you have people dependent on you. Of course, we can't control the weather. There are a lot of things outside of our control, and that's where God comes in, right? But he does ask us to do our part and then he'll give us the increase, right? Faith without works is dead, right? So, yes, we trust, we know he's going to come through for us, but we have to do our part, just like Joseph did his part and he came through. So just really excited today to be able to share that information with you. This is my contact information. If you ever need to reach out to me, I have to tell you something very cool that I'm doing starting next week. I'm actually, I call myself everything, Miss Insurance, but now I'm going to be Professor Ivory. So I'm starting my coursework, on Insurance 101. So this semester, we're actually talking about everything from estate planning, from life insurance, just things of that nature. The next year or next semester, we're going to move into more of the property and casualty. So really excited that now I'm going to be able to educate everyone about insurance because sometimes people feel like, oh, this is just something I just pay my premium and that's it. Everyone needs to know about insurance because it affects your life. This is something to me I feel people should be talking, at least on a high school level, college level, because this is real life, And as people are starting to see in these last 10 years, and what they are going to see in the next 7 years, is it's going to have a major effect on the economy, on your own personal bills, your insurance policies, and how you move forward in life. So, with that, thank you so much, Lady Pam, for allowing me to be here.
Oh, thank you so much, Nikki. And y'all, she's really good at, let's just say you bought a policy, you don't understand it. Maybe you want to know, if it's a good policy, you can take some pictures of it and send it to her, and she will be so honest about your policy. So she's excellent with that as well. She had to be there for us. But Nikki, you said so many great things, and as you was talking, I was thinking, I wish I would have paid attention to my grandmother when she was canning all her stuff. Like I really don't know how to can nothing, but I do want to start watching. You said the lead farmer. Is that
Oh,
on?
yes.
Is that on
Led
YouTube?
Farmer, he is amazing. Yes, everything I'm telling you is going to be on YouTube.
On
Well,
YouTube.
let me
Okay.
see. I want to just double check. Most things I'm telling you are going to be on YouTube. Okay. So going back to Led Farmer, his handle is Led Farmer 73.
Lead farmer 7-3. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And also on YouTube is the DIY Prepper TV.
Yeah, I wrote
That's
that
the name
one.
of that channel. And then also on YouTube, the handle is the Urban Prepper.
The urban prepper. Okay.
Hmm. And then lastly, the website is going to be survivalfist.com.
Okay. That's good.
Hmm.
And then canned items, you say can last up to a year. Canned
Oh, yes. Canned
food.
items can last up to a year, but then also some of the commercial cans can last up from 3 to 5 years. So sometimes we'll see, like, I'm really bad about this. Not anymore because my mom is, telling me to just relax, Nicole. But when I see those expiration dates, that food is out of here. But she's like, no, Nicole, you don't have to do that. Like, you can still keep it up to a year. And then when, of course, I researched it, that is so true. So, even if it says a year, you can still keep it up to 2 years. And sometimes, even with commercial and canned food, you can keep that from 2 to 5 years. So that's very reassuring to me. For people like me, you can still eat it later.
Right, because then if something happens and there's no way to cook your beans and rice, you have these canned options. And I was in Dollar
Exactly.
Tree today, And they have them in Dollar Tree, those mason jars for dollar, dollar
Oh,
25.
yes. Stock
Yeah.
up on those now, please, because that is there's so many, well, I shouldn't say so many. There's like a list of items that are very hard to find.
Oh,
Mason jars for a good price is very hard to find. So even if you're not even planning to do anything right now, still
right.
stock up on this, because one thing is you can still use it for you and your family to do your canning, but then also that's going to be a great bartering option for you too, because people are going to need that in the future.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
And we haven't even talked about bartering, but that's a whole nother thing.
I'm gonna stick these mason jars. Let me get on the corner and be like, I got mason jars.
I got mason jars, guys. Come on, let's do this.
And we talked about there being a drought, and I didn't think about
Yes.
it till you were discussing it. Our church normally does a feeding, and we usually reach out to a local farmer because we
Okay.
give out, we purchase collard greens from her. And last year she was saying, "Hey, there was a drought. I don't have anything." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, she doesn't have anything." And it's just so important of how we need to be in the mindset. Like you said, you started off the broadcast with talking about our mindset and changing our
hmm
mindset to okay, these are signs, almost like birthing pains, what is the possible come. So let's go ahead and get ready.
And Lady Pam, what you just said there, right, too. I know I said this on a property side, far as having a list of vendors, who can restore your home, plumbing vendor, roofing vendor, carpet vendor. You need to start getting those vendors
Yeah,
listed now and vetted now, right? But then also, same what you're saying too, while we're talking about that, same while we're on the line, along the lines of that, when it comes to your food. You need to start having a vendor list for food. Where can I source quality beef? Where can I source? Because at the end of the day, you know, different climates are best for certain, vegetables and fruits. It's just what it is. So maybe in your area, you can grow cucumbers and, tomatoes. And then maybe another place they grow, citrus fruits. But I'm just saying it's still great to have those vendors now, because again, and get in on their list. One thing that I'm going to start to do, because we have several people here locally that I've known, I've already reached out to a few, but I want to start getting on those programs where I pay them so much and then they either deliver the food to me or I pick it up. I just don't trust the grocery store food anymore. I just don't. And
yeah,
so if I'm on these people's list, then that means if it goes down, right, then I know that my family is okay with quality food. So just like this lady you mentioned, who's amazing at having, that every year, and last year she wasn't able to have it, or this year she wasn't able to have it due to the drought last year. Great, get a list of 3 to 5 people who does what she does, so that way in case you still need that item, you can kind of go down that list
yeah,
and see. But maybe if it happened to her, it happened to everyone else. But I just think we're at the time now where we're all going to have to come together, like we're talking about the community garden. The time is now for us all to pull our resources, our skills together, and work together as a community, because we're going to need it during these challenging times to be able to not only feed ourselves, but feed ourselves with quality food and even restore our homes. I know I had one insured. She really didn't have a whole lot of money, but she had a solid church family who were in construction. There were a lot of people who worked in construction at her house. I mean, at her house, at her church. And so she was telling me, and it wasn't even for the storm that I was dealing with her on. She was telling me this was during Hurricane Katrina, that they were able to restore her house for her. And she said, has she had to been able to pay for it? There's just no way. So I'm just saying it's really great to have those connections, those relationships. It's going to be more important now than ever.
yeah. And Nikki, you're right about those. When I tell you, we have been trying to find seeded grapes for so long.
Yes.
It
Where
used to,
are the grapes? I am with you. What happened to the grapes?
right, right. They used to be, I think, Costco or Sam's. We used to get them there all the time. And now I've tried Publix. I
That's
mean,
crazy.
they're not fine.
And I love grapes.
I
Yeah.
love grapes too. Yeah, you're right. But oh my gosh. But yeah, you're so right. Things are changing. In
Very
fact,
quickly.
yeah. And listening y'all about the mason jars that somebody was commenting about
Mhm.
that. So yes, actually Dollar Tree, you can order online and you can actually order as many as you want. Well, they
Yes.
make a limit. but you can pick them up from the store because sometimes
Do that now.
yes, do it now.
Because last time in 2020, what you're saying, that was available and they stopped it because they start rationing out products.
Yeah.
So they stopped the online delivery option. So I'm saying do that now.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Wow. Well, Nikki, this was awesome. I'm telling you, this was so wonderful. So listen, guys, please share this broadcast. We're gonna, of course, we're gonna do a replay in the evening, so we're gonna do that as well. Make sure you are doing your due diligence. Do it now. I remember last year you were telling us that you need to take a picture of your birth certificate,
Oh,
um,
yes.
cards and put them
Hmm.
in. I know you mentioned Google Drive. And so so make sure you also mention emailing stuff to yourself,
Hmm.
which is
Hmm.
great. That way you can get to a computer at some
Hmm.
point and you can just pull that stuff up, or you have your phone at your fingertips because you have your portable battery charger. So it's easy to pull it up.
It's very important. I mean, think about the residents from Maui. They
Yeah,
had everything destroyed. So that means they don't have a copy of their insurance. They may not have copies of their pass or whatever. So you want
that's
to
right.
make sure that you can have access to it. And then I even on certain documents, I provide that to my parents, you know what I mean? Or someone that you trust so they can have that information too in
Right.
case you need it. Hmm.
Right, right. So this was good. So guys,
Hmm.
thank you for joining us here on today. Just going to share a couple of announcements. One in particular, because we're on the subject of storing documents. Next week we have Martha Underwood. She has a powerful testimony. She actually has a tech background. She worked for IBM, but she created a storage component where you can digitally store all your documents. Her dad got sick. They didn't know anything. And so this kind of what prompted her to start this. So you're going to be so surprised. And that way, if all your documents are stored in one place, God forbid something happens to you, your family members have the access and all they have to do is just open it up and then they know where everything is. So y'all want to listen to this on next week. Also, for the month of October, we are having our virtual women's conference. Y'all, we are going to learn how to be rooted. And we need you to make sure you put this on your calendar. We have some amazing speakers who are going to speak to us about how we can be rooted in our faith, rooted in God and love, in marriage, in our motherhood, in our mental health, in our discipleship. So many key areas. Please join us October the 21st at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time for our virtual women's conference. And then in the month of November, don't forget, y'all, it is Birmingham Bible Church's 9th church anniversary. We are super excited that up until this point, the Lord has truly helped us. And so we have amazing guest pastors who are going to be preaching to us, teaching to us that entire month. So you don't want to miss it. Of course, we're going to have a special meeting for our pastors and leaders that first weekend in November, November the 4th. So pastors and leaders, make sure you mark that on your calendar as well. And then don't forget, we're going to be sowing in increments of 9 to embark or to honor 9 years of service that Birmingham Bible Church has been mentioned. Of course, we have various things that are going on. Listen, all of our announcements can be found on our website at bhambc.org. That is bhambc.org, and you can see all the announcements that we have going on. So Nikki, go ahead and conclude for us at this time. Give us something to take away. Give us something to remember.
I just want you to remember to just do the work. Your family, your loved ones, they're all depending on you during this crucial time. Right now, you see everything. The signs are everywhere. God is talking to you. Your spirit is being moved. If you're here today listening to this, we've given you a list of action items, websites that you can go to, professionals, preppers that you can listen to. Definitely review your policy information. Know what you have. Okay, get those vendors together. Know your exit strategy for an emergency, but just be prepared, do the work, and you'll be successful.
Nikki, I had one other question. I'm sorry. And I saw it on the list, but those who have prescriptions, what's the best way? Just grab it and go, or, most people have a certain pharmacy that they go to, but what's the best route to take, when you have prescriptions?
And that's a little bit different, especially if you're diabetic and you may have to put it in a refrigerated type of if you may need your medication refrigerated. So it depends on your type of medication. If it's just something that's pills and that they will allow you to be able to get an excess of, that's great. Have that on hand. Okay. Sometimes they only give you so much and you have to keep refilling it. It's just really great to know, if, like you said, if you're with CVS or Walgreens, where they are all located. So that way, in the event you have to go to another state, right? It's okay. But when it comes to refrigerated medication, this is where on your emergency list, your list is going to be different. You may need to pack a cooler. You may
Yeah.
need to have, something to where it can, whatever it is, withstand high temperatures if it's something that has to be kept uh, in what do they call it when they sorry when they say it has to be room temperature. So if it's something like if you're in extreme heat, that may not work for you as well. So you have to figure those items out for yourself. But I definitely say figure them out. I know when I went to Costa Rica, I made sure that I had an extra inhaler with me, because I didn't just want to bank on that I could go to a hospital in Costa Rica, and I'm glad I didn't. I didn't need it, but when I got there, I realized that they don't have a plethora of hospitals like we do here in America. So you may have to drive 45 minutes to an hour just to get to an hospital. Well, anything can happen in that time. So you don't want to have to rely on that. You want to have everything on you that you can in that time. And then maybe there's substitutions. For instance, maybe if you don't have access to a particular medicine, but if you practice a certain breathing treatment or breathing exercises, or if you drink a certain thing or eat a certain thing, it can lower you know maybe your blood pressure or whatever. Have those items available as well too.
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nikki, for joining us here today with all of this great plethora of information, guys. Let's make sure we take it and apply it. One last thing, I forgot to say this, but I don't know if y'all can see, I'm wearing a special Winning Wednesday shirt. Compliments of Nikila Huggins. Listen, she is great at making any kind of t-shirt. She can make a unusual t-shirts, but whatever your brand is, good quality shirts. Please see her. She's on social media on Facebook as Nikila Huggins, Nekela Huggins, Huggins. So see her for all of your t-shirt needs. So want to make sure I put a plug in for her as well. So thank you so much, Nikki. Thank you for this time. It's great information. We'll see you next time.
Awesome. I love that shirt, and I'll see you next time. Y'all take care.
All right. Thank you.
All
Bye.
right. Thank you. Bye bye.